Let's try this again. Cool, let me make sure it pushed out. Okay, it did. I'm back. Cool. So anyway, I had gotten some feedback in terms of going back to the basics, the beginning for AWS Solutions Architect. I know last week I had done chapter 4, and then the week before that I kind of did the assessment test. But some people wanted a little bit more accountability, which is fine because I can use some as well. So I'm going to do lives where I'm just going to do individual chapters 1 through, if I'm not mistaken, this book has 14. I'm going to try to do as many as possible. So like, I might have to do more than one a week, or I have to come back, or maybe I might pre-record some and put it to be scheduled later. Either way, you'll figure it out, or I should say, I'll figure it out. But I wanted to do chapter 1 really quickly, introduction to AWS, and just take some keynotes because I've already kind of read I've already read the beginning parts. I know for me, I don't need to highlight that many notes. So mainly I want to take the practice test for those who are interested. So I'll quickly just highlight some of the keywords that I think are important and then go from there. Cool. So AWS introduction to AWS is about best practices, familiarity with best practices, hybrid architecture, elasticity, implementation, all that kind of good stuff. What is cloud computing? On-demand delivery of IT resources, which is pretty basic. Some of the advantages of cloud computing. Chapter 1 is pretty basic. So that's why I already know it's something I can kind of go through because this is information that isn't just specific to AWS, it's specific to all cloud computing. And if you're doing the solutions architect exam, I guess because there's an associate one, but I would think there would be some level of understanding for cloud computing in there. But some of the advantages include, having variable versus capital expense, making sure you don't have any upfront costs, economies of scale. We could stop guessing about capacity, increase speed and agility. You get to focus on different business differentiators. You can go global in minutes. Cloud computing deployment models. Again, don't really need to take notes on that, but it's important to understand about all-in application, hybrid deployment. Then they go over some AWS fundamentals. Security and compliance within AWS, where, of course, cloud security is number 1 priority, not just for AWS, but for all cloud service providers. Really understanding the difference, or really understanding the responsibility and security between a cloud service provider and a customer. Compliance is also is also important to understand, especially for those who are under regulation, because a common misconception is that if your cloud service provider is compliant, then you are compliant. And as we all know, that's not the case. PCI, ISO, FISMA, SOC, all of that good stuff. So for chapter 1, I think they have, it's going through all of its services. Okay, I will write down services because I am not familiar with all of these services that, actually, should I write that as a keyword or a note? I'm not sure, but I'll put it here for now. So of course you have EC2 instances, you have AWS Lambda, auto scaling, because I know all of the services, there are going to be questions on literally all of their services. So really understanding ELB, elastic load balancing, elastic beanstalk. And I like to write down, especially if it's a chapter I'm already familiar with, I would at least write down services because, like I said, I don't know all the AWS services. So that way, when I come back and reference this chapter, my studying would be, okay, can I say out loud a definition for each one of these services, or at least understand the basics of each? So we have VPC, we have direct connect. I took a walk earlier and now I feel like my nose is stuffed up. wasn't even that cold outside. We have S3, we have Glacier, we have EBS, which is Elastic Block Store. So I want to do the, I think I'm going to write one sentence definition for each. So let's see. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll write a one sentencer for each one of them. So web service, EC2, web service that provides resizable compute capacity. I cannot spell. AWS Lambda, zero admin compute platform for back-end web developers that runs your code for you on the AWS cloud. Auto scaling, it allows orgs to scale EC2 capacity up or down. We have ELB, which automatically, what can I spell? Distributes incoming application traffic across multiple EC2 instances. And again, I'm just writing definition, like one sentencer for the AWS services. And that will be my reference for chapter 1. Chapter 1 is really easy. It's really just about services and really understanding cloud basics. So if you're already familiar with like cloud computing, a lot of the benefits, you can really skip that unless you're like me and you don't know all of the AWS cloud services. Then I recommend you go ahead and write them all down. You don't need to dive deep into them. Just write it one sentence or like how I am. So cool. Beanstalk, fastest. I don't really need to write fastest and simplest way. Developers can, so I'm reading about Beanstalk, can simply upload their application code and the service automatically handles all of the details such as resource provisioning, load balancing, XYZ. So Beanstalk allows you to get a web application up and running super fast. Handles all of the back end automatically. Like that's how I'm interpreting that definition. I don't really want to write all of that down. VPC, virtual cloud, but I write it down anyway. Lets you logically isolate sections of AWS cloud where they can launch resources in a virtual network and launch resources in a defined virtual network. Cool. What is AWS Direct Connect? Allows organizations to establish a dedicated network connection from the data center to AWS. That's pretty connect to, connect data center. I can't spell. Data center to AWS. Route 53. What did I just do? I turned it into a page. Route 53 is a highly available and scalable DNS web service designed to give developers and businesses extremely reliable, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to say DNS web service. That's all you need to know. Well, that's all I need to know whenever I see Route 53. What is, yeah, I'll put S3 and that says 5.3. Wait, no, I'm an idiot. No, it is S3. Okay, I was about to say, I'm like, I know it's S3 somewhere. It's down here. Simple Storage provides developers and the IT teams with highly durable and scalable object storage that handles virtually unlimited amounts of data. That was a question I did see. How much data can you store? And unlimited was one of the choices. So highly durable and scalable Object storage. I can't spell object storage. Unlimited amounts of data. Large number of concurrent users. Cool. I have so many services. I hope they're not listing each and every one of them and just some like really important high level ones. Amazon Glacier is a secure, durable, and extremely low cost storage service for data archiving. So secure, durable, low cost archiving service, which I'm already familiar with. Elastic Block Store, again, persistent block level storage volumes for EC2 instances. I need to be smarter, not harder. Why didn't I copy and paste this whole time? Aws Storage Gateway. Okay. How many services did they? Oh, they went through all of them. Okay, I'm not going to do that with you here. I'm going to come back and do services at another time and reference it and just copy and paste it. That's fine. But what I will do is at least, because the summary I think is next, right? Cool. That's easy enough. So let me just at least go through them and then I can copy and paste it on my own time. So Cloudfront is a content delivery web service that integrates with other AWS cloud services, distributes content to users across the world, low latency, high data transfer speeds. So the way I usually study in order to really answer questions is I look for what are the keywords in a question and how does it associate with its answers, right? So say, for example, one of the questions was like, which content delivery web service offers, for example, low latency and high data transfer speeds, right? And Amazon CloudFront was one of the answers. I would be able to know that that was the answer simply by looking at low latency and high data transfer speeds. A lot of the questions are going to try to trick you by putting it'll give you whole scenario-based questions where it'll say, Billy Bob wants this, these are the requirements, these are XYZs. Like it'll give you a whole bunch of information that really doesn't pertain or really doesn't say a lot. Really what you need is to understand the keywords within a question and then which one of those answers really best fits those keywords. So low latency, high transfer speeds, or something where it's talk about seamless and secure integration. NoSQL, when you start to get into databases, right? NoSQL versus SQL databases, or ones that can be petabyte scale or ones that cannot. Like really understanding how to differentiate keywords so you can understand like how to answer better. Because that I know trips a lot of people up. It trips me up. So that's what's been beneficial when I take tests is like really understanding what keywords associate with what services. Someone asked what study material is being used. I am using the Cybex. Let me go up. So this is the Cybex AWS Certified Solutions Architect official study guide. I'm using this as my reading reference. So the way I usually study is I have a reading reference, which would be some kind of textbook, which is this, or white papers or XYZ. So I'm using this as my book reference. And then I have an account with Linux Academy that I'm using for some demos. And then I have another server that I'm using to get my study. It's really creepy seeing those people on my screen. I'm using another O'Reilly, I believe they're called. They have some good practice exams that I'm using. Oop, I went too far. Okay, cool. I hope that answers your questions. Where was I? So we was at Glacier. We have relational databases. So RDS for relational databases. DynamoDB is a fast and flexible NoSQL. Let me see, what is the keyword for RDS? Fully managed relational database with support for many people. It's open source and commercial database engines. It is cost efficient. So like whenever I think of RDS, I would think of cost efficient. Like if they ask for what's a cost efficient database, RDS would be one of the answers. DynamoDB, fast and flexible NoSQL. Key value data models. Amazon Redshift is a fully managed petabyte scale data warehouse service that makes it simple and cost effective to analyze structured data. So I know RDS said, okay, this is data warehouse, and that's just relational database. I wanted to get the differences between the two just to make sure. Elasticache is a web service that simplifies deployment, operations, scaling of memory and cache. We have CloudWatch, monitoring service for your resources. CloudFormation gives developers and administrators an effective way to create and manage a collection of AWS resources. Okay, cool. They went into literally every service. CloudTrail, AWS Config, the security services that they have, which is IAM, a key management service, AWS Directory Service Certificate Manager. They have a web application firewall, a whole bunch of services. That's it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go through the questions now because, again, chapter 1 was pretty easy. It's really about AWS services and about cloud computing. So if you're trying to take this exam, I definitely encourage you to at least understand the basics of cloud computing because it would be hard to really understand the concepts or the services that a cloud service provider would have and how it really, so I know the goal a lot of people have, or I can't even say a lot of people that I had when I was taking certifications is that I was just studying to study to pass the exam. But if you're someone who's trying to actually be an architect, trying to actually be a cloud engineer, a cloud, whatchamacallit, like anything, what has definitely helped me and shift my perspective is coming from the point of I'm studying to pass versus I'm studying to understand to be to be better in my role. And I think that shift, especially as when I was studying for my CISSP, and I was able to kind of correlate a lot of the concepts that were happening to my everyday job. Now, I know there might be some people who aren't necessarily working in cloud security yet or working within the platform yet, which is fine. I highly encourage you to get a free trial. And as you're studying, like really try to correlate a lot of the services. So as you're learning about EC2 instances, as you're learning about simple storage, as you're learning about all these things, get your hands on the keyboard at the same time. So that way you can start to really put concepts together, especially as an architect. If you're trying to architect all of these things together, if you're trying to figure out how do I take the requirements of an organization and fit these services within there, or figure out which services are best to fit the needs and requirements of this organization. I think coupling those two together and changing your perspective of how you study really helps, if that makes sense. So cool. Let's answer. Ooh, I don't know where that came from. Why is it doing that? I don't want new notes. Delete that. Okay. I shouldn't delete that. How do I go back now? Okay, cool. Questions and answers. Chapter 1. Number 1. Cool. Number 1. Which of the following describes a physical location around the world where AWS clusters centers? Endpoint, collection, fleet, or region? I'm definitely going with D because none of those make sense. 2, each AWS region is composed of 2 or more locations that offer organizations the ability to operate production systems that are more highly available, fault-tolerant, and scalable than would be possible using a single data center. What are these locations called? So your region is composed of 2 or more locations. So 2 or more locations would be an availability zone. They don't call them compute centers or geographic districts or replication areas. So I'm going to go with A. What is the deployment term for an environment that extends an existing on-premise infrastructure into the cloud to connect resources to internal systems? You have all deployment, hybrid deployment, on-premise deployment, or scattered deployment. Scattered doesn't make sense, nor does all in. On-premise doesn't is only strictly on-premise. That's what it's called. And then you have hybrid, which is the combination of both of those. So B. Number 4. Which AWS cloud service allows organizations to gain system-wide visibility into resources, application performance, and operation health? You have IAM, a simple notification service, CloudWatch, a CloudFormation. If I'm not mistaken, it is CloudWatch, which I think is their equivalent visibility logging. I believe so. This is why you need to go over the services. Which of the following cloud services is a fully managed NoSQL database service? You have SQS, DynamoDB, Elasticache, or relational database service. If I'm not mistaken, dang, now I already forgot DynamoDB. So it's definitely between B and D, and I'm kind of leaning towards B because relational database is different. So I'm gonna go with B, but it's B or D. So 6, your company experienced fluctuations in traffic patterns to the e-commerce website based on flash sales. What service can help your company dynamically match the required compute capacity to the spike in traffic during flash sales? So what service can help you dynamically match required compute? So like what can help you scale up when you have a lot of traffic coming up? Glacier is not it because that's archiving. SNS doesn't make sense here. A virtual private cloud doesn't make sense. So it has to be auto scaling, which is A. Number 7, your company provides an online photo sharing service. The deployment team is looking for ways to deliver image files. Lowest latency. So again, a lot of the keywords that you want to try to find, lowest latency, and what is it that they're trying to do? An online photo sharing service. So they want to do it to end users so that the website is delivered with the best possible performance. What service can help speed up contribution of these image files to users around the world? So is it a compute cloud? Is it Route 53, Storage Gateway, or Cloudfront? Now, I know Cloud 53 is DNS. Storage Gateway doesn't quite make sense, or I'm not sure about that service. Elastic Compute Cloud, I want to say Cloudfront because I think Cloudfront is the equivalent to GCP's cache service. Don't quote me. Let's go with it. I feel like, you gotta go what you got sometimes. I feel like my gut is saying that. Number 8, your company runs an EC2 instance periodically to perform a batch processing job on a large and growing file system. At the end of the batch job, you shut down the EC2 instance to save money, but you need to persist the file system from the previous batch run. Which cloud service can you leverage to meet these requirements? So essentially, they're asking, what can I use for storage? So you have Blockstore, DynamoDB, you have Glacier, and CloudFormation. Now, Glacier I'm going to rule out because that is for archiving. So unless it's a question about I need to store information for the next 7 years, then I would put Glacier, but that's not the case. CloudFormation, if I'm not mistaken, I had just said that was, what did I answer? What I said something was, no, that was CloudWatch. I don't know what CloudFormation is. DynamoDB is a database. I don't feel like I would use that here. And I don't know if Elastic Block Store is like the appropriate answer. So C is out for me. B is out for me. I don't feel like CloudFormation applies here. So I'm going to say A. I'm not very confident in it, but I just like process of elimination has me wanting to go towards A. All right, number 9. What AWS cloud service provides a logically isolated section of the AWS cloud where organizations can launch resources in a virtual network they define, which is a literal definition that I wrote down for virtual private cloud. So that was pretty easy to pinpoint. Your company provides a mobile voting application for a popular TV show, and 5 to 25 million viewers all vote within a 15-second time span. What mechanism can you use to decouple the voting application from your backend services that tally the votes? Now, I know it's not CloudTrail, and I know it's not Redshift because that's cloud. Redshift is about databases. I'm going between SQS and SNS. simply because you see, like my background has a lot to do with learning about Google Cloud. And I know that they have a service that's also decoupling your messaging and your processing and all that kind of good stuff in storage. So, and I also know that theirs is similar to the naming convention of Simple Queue Service and SNS. So that's why I'm leaning towards B and D, because if you already know a lot of the services from one cloud provider, it almost identically matches up with another cloud provider. It's just called something different. So in this in particular, they want to decouple the voting application from the back-end service to tallies the votes. I'm gonna go with B. I feel like notification services is if I wanted to push out a message to someone, whereas a queue service is if I'm queuing in all of the votes that are coming in. That's the way I'm interpreting it. I hope I'm interpreting that correctly. Oh, there was only 10 questions for chapter 1? Oh, wow, that was easy. Really? I guess so. Okay, cool. Let's look at the answers. Let's see if we got something right. Table of contents. I want to go to the answers. All right. Cool. So number 1 was D, which is a region. It's a set of resources in the same geographical area. 2 is A, we got that right. An availability zone is a distinct location within a region. 3 is B, a hybrid deployment is how you connect your on-premise infrastructure to the cloud. I got that right. C, Amazon CloudWatch is the monitoring service for AWS cloud resources, and you can check your health, metrics, collect log files, all that good stuff. 5 is B, DynamoDB. Hey. DynamoDB is a fully managed, fast, and flexible NoSQL service. So I got that right. I remember I was trying to differentiate between that, and I think it was Redshift, but I know Redshift is a relational database in comparison to this one. 6 is A, which is auto-scaling. Auto-scaling, again, helps you dynamically. You're in law school? Interesting. Nice. I am not in law school. I'm in tech. What was I saying? Yes, 6A, auto-scaling helps you be able to dynamically scale up your infrastructure if you need to. For example, if it's a Black Friday sale, you know you're going to have a lot of traffic. Boom, auto-scaling will kind of help you do that. 7 is D. Cloudfront is a web service that provides CDN to speed up distribution of your static content. So I was right about that, because why is it escaping me right now? Why I can't remember the name of, and I know it's a simple name and I'm going to be mad because I feel like it's cache something, or it's GCP cache, or it's GCP, it's something, it's a cache service. So that way, say for example, if you have users like over in Asia, you would put, instead of having all of your information, you have your information housed here in the United States, but you would put it in a cache or like an edge, that's what it's called, an edge computing service. So that way it can reach your Asian users fast instead of it having some latency just because it's trying to reach across the globe. Okay, 8 is A. Elastic Block Service, I believe that's what it was called, provides persistent block level storage volumes for use with Amazon EC2 instances, which is perfect because I figured the other ones does not make sense. And CloudFormation, oh, there you go. CloudFormation is a managed collection for AWS resources. I knew that was not it. 9 is C. Your VPC lets you logically isolate your AWS resources. And 10 was B. SQS, I'm glad I got that right, is a fast, reliable, scalable, fully managed messaging queue service. Cool. I got all 10 right. That is a first, but I also know, I'm not even going to say it was because it was an easy chapter. It don't matter. That just means I know my stuff. Cool. Chapter 1 was really easy. I recommend you, if you're not familiar with AWS services, to find a book or find a resource where you can, or actually, I think you go to AWS, their website in general. They have a list of all their services there. You don't even need a book. And you can read up all about the different services that they had, which again is important because as you continue to go through your studying, as we continue to go through chapters, all of these services are going to build on top of each other. So when you see something like this and you see the architecture and you're trying to figure out, well, how does this web instance relate to, DynamoDB, and how does S3 and Cloudfront, like how does all this come together? As an architect, it ties together. And once you understand all the services available for you in a cloud service provider, and then are able to build an infrastructure based off of certain requirements or certain things that you're trying to achieve, right? So yeah, we'll build upon that. This is a quick and easy one. I know it's a little late, but that's cool. Thank you so much. And I'll be back next week. We'll see. I'll be back. Bye.